Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Yende. Let me begin with a provocative question. What if your anxiety isn't entirely yours? What if your stress response, your tendency to worry, your sensitivity to criticism, your difficulty sleeping, and even your heightened emotional reactivity were influenced before you ever spoke your first word? Not through parenting advice, not through childhood memories, not through life experience alone, but through biology itself. Today we're exploring one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern neuroscience and epigenetics. The idea that parental stress can shape the biological architecture of a child's brain, not through DNA mutations, but through changes in gene expression, changes that can influence stress resilience, emotional regulation, inflammation, and even longevity. In other words, the biology you carry today may partly reflect the physiological experiences of the people who came before you. Welcome to the emerging science of the epigenetics of parenting, the myth of genetic destiny. For decades, we believed genetics worked like a fixed blueprint. You inherited genes. Those genes determined your future. End of story. But biology has turned out to be far more sophisticated than that. Because possessing a gene is not the same as expressing a gene. Think of your DNA as a piano. The keys are all there, waiting, but not every key is played. The music depends on which keys become active, when they are activated, and how loudly they are expressed. Epigenetics studies the mechanisms that determine which genes are turned on, which genes are turned off, and how environmental experiences influence that process. The DNA sequence may remain unchanged, but the biological outcome can change dramatically. The body's stress command center. To understand how this happens, we need to look at one of the most important systems in the human body, the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Think of it as the body's stress command center. When the brain detects a threat, whether real or perceived, the hypothalamus sends signals, the pituitary responds, and the adrenal glands release cortisol. Heart rate increases, blood sugar rises, attention sharpens. The body prepares for action, survival, and rapid response. This stress reaction is essential. Without it, human beings would never have survived dangerous environments, predators, conflict, or famine. But problems arise when stress becomes chronic, because chronic cortisol exposure changes biology. And remarkably, those changes may begin affecting the next generation. The pregnancy connection. Imagine a developing fetus. Its brain is growing at an extraordinary pace. Millions of neural connections are forming. Hormonal systems are developing. Stress circuits are being programmed. The fetus is not isolated from the mother's physiology. It receives biological information continuously. Nutrients, hormones, inflammatory signals, metabolic signals, and stress signals. When maternal stress becomes chronic, elevated cortisol and inflammatory pathways may influence fetal development. The baby is, in a very real sense, receiving information about the outside world before birth. And biology begins asking an important question. What kind of world am I entering? A safe world or a threatening world? The predictive brain. The developing nervous system is highly adaptive. If biology receives signals suggesting a dangerous environment, it may prepare accordingly. The stress response system can become more sensitive, more vigilant, and more reactive. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. A child entering a hostile or unpredictable environment benefits from heightened alertness and rapid threat detection. But in modern society, that same heightened sensitivity can sometimes become a burden. Anxiety, hypervigilance, sleep disruption, stress reactivity, difficulty regulating emotions. The very adaptations designed to promote survival may later contribute to chronic disease and psychological distress. The science of DNA methylation. Now let's talk about one of the most important mechanisms in epigenetics, DNA methylation. Methylation acts like a biological dimmer switch. It does not delete genes, it does not rewrite genes, but it can alter how strongly they are expressed. Researchers have identified methylation changes in genes involved in stress regulation, especially within pathways controlling cortisol responses. These changes can influence how the HPA axis functions for years and potentially for decades. The result? Two people may possess similar genetic sequences, yet respond very differently to stress, because their genes are being expressed differently. The legacy of trauma. One of the most remarkable discoveries in modern biology is that trauma can leave measurable biological signatures. Researchers studying survivors of famine, war, genocide, severe adversity, and chronic stress have identified epigenetic alterations associated with these experiences. Even more intriguing, some evidence suggests these biological effects may influence future generations. This does not mean trauma is inherited genetically in the same straightforward way as eye color or height. The science is far more nuanced than that. But it does suggest that severe stress can leave biological footprints that persist long after the original event has ended. The body remembers, even when the conscious mind does not. The infant nervous system is watching. After birth, the story continues. Infants arrive with immature nervous systems, and they rely heavily on caregivers for regulation, comfort, and safety. When a baby cries, a calm parent helps regulate the infant's stress response. When a baby becomes frightened, a regulated caregiver helps restore a sense of safety. This process is known as co-regulation. The infant, in a very real sense, borrows the nervous system of the parent, repeated thousands of times, over months and years. Eventually, the child learns self-regulation, but the foundation is built through relationships. Not lectures, not advice, biology, reinforced through daily connection. Why parental stress matters. This is why parental well-being matters so profoundly. A chronically stressed parent is not a bad parent. Let's be clear about that. Stress is part of life. Every parent experiences it. The issue is chronic, unrelenting physiological stress, persistent sleep deprivation, financial pressure, relationship conflict, burnout, anxiety, depression. These factors can shape the emotional climate surrounding a child. And children are extraordinarily sensitive to their emotional environments. They detect far more than adults often realize. Voice tone, facial expression, tension in the body, emotional availability. The nervous system is always listening. The longevity connection. Why does this matter for longevity? Because chronic stress influences nearly every major disease pathway in the body. Cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, immune dysregulation, neurodegenerative disease, depression, poor sleep, accelerated biological aging. A stress-sensitive nervous system established early in life can influence health trajectories for decades. Longevity is not simply about what happens at age 60. Longevity begins much earlier, in early development, perhaps even before birth. What wearables are now revealing. For the first time in history, wearable technology allows us to observe stress physiology continuously and in real time. Heart rate variability, resting heart rate, sleep quality, respiratory rate, recovery patterns, stress scores. Imagine tracking the physiology of parents and children simultaneously. Researchers are beginning to identify remarkable synchrony. When parents are calm, children often show calmer physiology. When parental stress rises, children's nervous systems frequently respond as well. The biology of families is interconnected. Health is not isolated. It is shared. Breaking the cycle. The most important message is this. Epigenetics is not destiny. The brain remains plastic. Genes remain responsive. Nervous systems remain adaptable. Healing is possible. Growth is possible. Recovery is possible. Every healthy behavior matters. Sleep, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, therapy, social connection, stress management. These interventions can influence gene expression throughout life. The story is never finished. The OXYZEN perspective. At OXYZEN, we believe health intelligence begins with understanding the invisible systems shaping human biology. Your stress affects your children, your recovery affects your family, your nervous system can influence future generations. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Because once we understand the biology, we gain the power to change it. Final thought. Perhaps the most profound lesson from epigenetics is this. We inherit more than genes. We inherit biological stories, physiological patterns, stress responses, adaptations. But inheritance is not imprisonment. Every generation has the opportunity to rewrite the script, to create healthier environments, healthier nervous systems, healthier futures for themselves, for their children, and for generations yet to come. I'm Dr. Yende, and this is OXYZEN Health Intelligence. And before I leave you with a question, if wearable technology could show how your daily stress affects your child's biology in real time, would it change the way you manage your own health? Let us know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next episode.